I feel like I'm trapped purgatorially. I like this backdrop though.
Sage, did you shoot with Roseanne already, or are you doing this first?
This is first, and we're going right over to her. Yeah.
You're going to have an absolute blast with her.
I'm so excited. It is out here in the middle of nowhere, isn't it? Ooh.
Well, trust me, it's better there than just downtown Austin, which is a freaking nightmare.
It's gross. We've been there the last 2 days. It's gross.
Yeah. Did you go to Terry Black's?
No, what's that?
That's like the barbecue joint.
Oh, no, I don't do barbecue, Dave Rubin.
What? All right, Internet, I'm Dave Rubin. This is Actual Friends alongside my actual friends Sage Steele and Russell Brand. And you may note there isn't an empty box there, but we did have 4 people when we started this thing. We aim to have 4 people. Again, we're going to have a rotating cast of characters. Maybe some of them will be noted lesbian with abs, Jillian Michaels. Maybe not. There's going to be all sorts of people joining us. But today, it is just us 3, and it is good to see you guys. Russell, once again, the man who has no buttons on his shirt. I'm old school. I button this. This is it for me. To me, that's right. You need to breathe, man.
I live in the beach. I live in the beach. I just walked down 30A in Seaside where I have to return a bicycle and a trailer that I want to say drag, but transport my kid in. And I did get a lot of attention walking along in, this is my full attire. This is my costume for work. This is my costume for play. This is how I live. I can make no more apologies, Dave.
What do the simple people of Seaside, a humble, simple, quiet town people see when they see leopard print, big glasses, showing off the gams, Russell Brand wandering down the street?
I hope what they see is a man who is determined to bring unity, joy, and freedom, an ongoing anti-establishment voice, a supporter and follower only of Christ Jesus, and occasionally tumbling into my own ridiculous ego. I hope they see that, because that's what's there.
No, I'm sure that's what they see. Sage, hello. You are in Austin. You're outside of Austin, Texas, I should say, in an interesting location at the moment.
I am. Before I tell you exactly where I am, Russell, remember when I texted you on Easter weekend because I was in a car on 30A. My fiance has a house in Seaside, and I'm like, oh my God, Russell Brand just rode by on a bicycle. And like, of course, unmatched clothing similar to that today. And I'm like, that vision just made my day. If I could see that every morning, life would be good.
I'm trying to bring joy to people, Sage. That's what we're here to do, bring joy and love to one another.
Oh, it's a beautiful thing.
Via 6-inch shorts, apparently.
And listen, someday I'll have the courage to show off my abs when I get them back. That will be the goal here on the show. Dave, you and I should make that our goal, is to join Russell and showing our abs.
Listen, I've been doing almost accidental intermittent fasting right now, and it's working, lady. Plus the heat in Florida this time of year, just the sweat you get by walking the dog. It's like,
exactly.
I'm getting close. Where are you?
Here is proof of where I am. Look at this lovely lady. Roseanne Barr in her office, in her home, about an hour outside of Austin, in the middle of nowhere, Texas. I kind of love it. And I sat down and I recognized this from when she was on this show with us a few weeks ago. I don't know if this was on at the time. Can you guys see? This is Donald Trump's Take America Back gun.
Oh, wow.
Autographed for Roseanne Barr. There's apparently a story behind this very real gun that I intend to find out when I sit down with her in about an hour and record her for the Sage Steele show. But I am like, this is so the memorabilia on the walls here. Dave, you've been here. This place is incredible.
No, it's amazing. She's got pictures with like every comic legend you can think of, from, Johnny Carson to Rodney to just everybody across the board. And I have a feeling, we do this for about 45 minutes. I'm going to make a bold statement. I feel that we're going to get a walk-on by Roseanne Barr with a white wine and maybe a cigarette just popping her head sideways.
I hope so. She's napping right now. It was apparently a long couple of days, and she's resting up because you better be rested when you come on with me, right? Kidding.
Because Sage Steele will kick the crap out of you in an interview. You know what I mean? Guys, can I just say one other thing real quick before we start, which is I'm super excited today. My tequila came out today. We are crushing it. They just gave me some numbers. I've been working on this thing. You guys know I've been working on this for like 3 years. It's the most... Wait, Sage, have you had it?
No.
You haven't had it yet. Okay, we've done wine when you've been here. We're going to send you guys some. And Russell, ironically, Russell has had it accidentally at my house. A man who hasn't had a sip of alcohol in 20 years accidentally took a swig out of my glass
No
and then
way.
had to do
Oh my
and then had to do mindful meditation in the backyard for about an hour. So Russell, you have had my tequila. You basically are the first public person to ever have Dave Rubin's Copal tequila. Drink
I'm
Copal.
22 and a half years clean from drugs and alcohol. One day at a time, I do not drink or take drugs. I sat at the wrong chair when I was hanging out with Dave and David at their beautiful home. I just reached for the drink nearest me and I took a good solid swig of that thing. And I'll tell you, I felt very, very powerful. That is a good beverage. I can tell you as a recovering alcoholic, if you drink alcohol, drink Dave's tequila. It's empowering and magnificent.
Wow, we are clipping that and using that as a commercial. But no joke, I mean, and this is to Russell's credit, truly, and I really did feel bad that he grabbed my glass because we had sat in different seats than the time he and his wife had been over before. But Sage, I'm not kidding. I saw, Russell, I told you, I saw fire in your eyes after not having a drink because you had some pepper in your tooth, so you were just trying to like swig something real quick.
Yeah.
And he just downed it like that, and
Oh
it was
my
like,
God.
boom.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
Oh, it begins! Like I felt it. Like it was like Popeye, Hulk, all of that stuff,
Oh
man.
my
It was
God.
crazy.
Half
I can't
Popeye,
believe-
half Hulk, totally open shirt, Russell Brand. All right, guys, let's dive in. So there's a ton of stuff going on this week. The first thing, of course, is the main thing that's going on is the Israel-Iran stuff. So headline from the AP here: intense Israeli strikes hit Tehran after Trump demands unconditional surrender. So that's obviously the headline that everybody knows. And as it stands right now, we're about 6 days into this thing. From what I can tell, the Iranian regime is pretty much given up. They are still lobbing some rockets into Israel, but they've been completely incapacitated. Sounds like Khomeini's in a bunker somewhere. Most of the leadership has been killed. Hopefully we're going to get to, regardless of what anyone thinks about either side or Middle East in general, nobody wants extraneous or extra chaos or destruction. Hopefully this thing wraps up kind of quick. So let's dive into some of the media portion of it, because that's where the three of us spend most of our lives these days. Tucker Carlson put this tweet up, and he's kind of in the center of the firestorm around the media reaction to a lot of this. Let me read this to you. This is a couple days ago. The real divide isn't between people who support Israel and people who support Iran or the Palestinians. The real divide is between those who casually encourage violence and those who seek to prevent it, between warmongers and peacemakers. Who are the warmongers? They would include anyone who's calling Donald Trump today to demand airstrikes and other direct U.S. military involvement in a war with Iran. On that list, Sean Hannity, Mark Levin, Rupert Murdoch, Ike Perlmutter, and Miriam Adelson. At some point, they will have to answer for this, but you should know their names now. So the reason I wanted to show you this tweet, I mean, I think there's a couple of things here. Again, sort of aside of what we all might think of the war or anything else, that there's a weirdness to this in that, does Tucker have a leaker in the White House? Like, how does he know who Donald Trump is on the phone with, and why would he put that information out? That's one thing. The other thing that seems strange to me is this, what I see is a little bit of a confusion from the more libertarian-minded people that you're either a peacemaker or a war maker. You know, if someone is breaking into your house, or someone's shooting rockets at you, or murdered your wife, or kidnapped your daughter, or we can go through a laundry list of things, you attacking them or preemptively stopping them from doing something that they're promising to do doesn't make you a war maker, a warmonger. And I really think it's worth letting people know that, because I guess in the most simplistic sense, if you attack somebody, you're a warmonger or a violent person. But that's not really how it is in reality, right, Sage?
Yeah, I totally agree. I mean, I don't know one person, and I know that they exist, one person who wants war, who wants devastation, who enjoys killing people in that manner, and just let's, for the hell of it, just go stir the pot and start something that could impact millions and millions of people. But I do think that there are decisions to make. And just like you said with those examples, I don't want anything, but I have a gun just in case someone's going to come to my house and take something from me or hurt someone that I love. So I don't think it has to be as black and white. To your point about, is there a leaker in the White House? I feel like there's always people leaking things. So who knows? Tucker is as connected as they get. No matter what I think about what Tucker said there, what I will say, and maybe this is too big picture, I respect the hell out of him because no matter what the topic is, he is not going to just stay on one side in particular because of his loyalty, his friendships, his relationships with people that are currently in the White House that he helped get elected. So I respect that part of him, but I don't believe that it has to be as black and white.
Yeah, well, Russell, what do you think about that part of it? That at least whether I agree with Tucker or not, and I've been somewhat critical of him over the last couple of days. I've tried for the most part to do it respectfully. I've probably failed in some way. But what do you think about what Sage just said about at least some of the fighting's happening out in the open, where for the last 8-10 years, we've watched the Democrats secretly do everything. They take out a sitting president secretly. They install another woman secretly. Regardless of what side of any of this you're on, the fact that there's a public fight happening, that strikes me as probably good.
Yes.
I suppose so. It seems like a significant bifurcation so hot on the heels of the blessedly resolved and potentially hyperbolic Elon Musk and Trump spat. I suppose the reason this is interesting to me is that Tucker Carlson, as a popular and populist figure who was extremely successful in legacy media and has become subsequently very successful in independent media, I would say is second only to Joe Rogan when it comes to being influential in American cultural and political life and understanding the temperature of the American people. And even though superficially you would think when watching Oprah Winfrey talk to Kamala with a host of Hollywood stars that was the center of the culture, in fact, Trump and his conversations with Rogan and his conversations with Tucker were actually the avant-garde of new media and was certainly more effective when it came to election. So I feel that Tucker Carlson is articulating very beautifully and succinctly what a lot of people felt is that the MAGA movement were anti-military industrial complex, were anti-forever wars. I feel like I recall Trump saying Ukraine and Russia will be solved very quickly. We won't be escalating tensions in the Middle East. These things wouldn't have happened if I was president. And I realized that all of us that occupy media spaces only understand a sort of a fragment, a fraction of what sort of deep state and geopolitical negotiations might comprise. But it seems to me that Tucker Carlson is, as Sage said there, well-informed and well-connected. And I get the sense that he's concerned for a good while has been preventing escalation of tensions, in particular between the US and Iran. Israel and Iran's relationship is fraught and understandably tense. And I'm sure that you can inform and educate me a great deal further on that, Dave. But I feel that Tucker Carlson speaks for a lot of people when he says that this is counter to the manner in which Trump campaigned.
Right. I guess the only counter to that, so we don't get too lost in it, would be that there's been so many videos, I'm sure you guys have seen them, of Trump literally from the day, it's 10 years and now I think 4 days ago, from the day he went down that golden escalator, saying that Iran would not get a nuclear bomb. Like it's in some sense, it's the most consistent thing he's ever said. So that's kind of the odd part, because you're right, Russell. He was like, we'll get you out of the wars. And then he was also taking a very clear position on them and the bomb. Sage, you think that's kind of why people are a little all over the place with this? Because you have to hold two kind of competing interests in your mind when it comes to what we're doing here, what we're doing or not doing. I mean, we haven't even done anything yet. I mean, that's the funny thing.
Yeah, for sure. And at the end of the day, you're going to hold him to the fire, as you absolutely should. And then you have to react to the current situation. I mean, yeah, it's been a decade of him saying these things, and he has been consistent. And I like that because quite often he is what? He is inconsistent and contradicting himself. But in this case, you have to react to what is happening, even if it is unpredictable, something we never could have guessed. This isn't something that should be completely shocking to everybody, but what do we want? If he has said that they cannot have any nuclear weapons, we need to make sure that he does everything in his power to shut that down, prevent it from happening. Why? To protect the world, but protect America. I want him doing this to protect us and keep that promise, because that is what he has said from day one in every aspect, from our allies, non-allies across the world to the southern border. I want him to protect us. And I believe he's doing that, even if there's some things that we don't agree with as far as the way he's doing it.
Right. And I'll just throw in one last thing. I mean, not only have we not done anything yet, I mean, we've obviously offered Israel some cover and there was some level of coordination because, he said 60 days to Iran originally and they did it on day 61. So they must have known something between Bibi and him. But who knows? I had Rand Paul on last night, who's, the most libertarian, no foreign aid kind of senator that we've got. And he basically was like, look, if the Israelis knock this thing out in a week and we don't really have to do anything and the end game is that Iran doesn't get a bomb, he's like, that's great. He said his counter to that was, oh, maybe this encourages them to get a bomb further. But it seems to me like the ship has sailed on that thing and the stuff is out. I was going to do one or two more on this, but Sage, I think I want to hand it to you because we got one more. You're going to do a little Cruz and Tucker, and then we're going to move from sort of the hardcore war stuff.
Yeah, honestly, thank you. And we should go back to you, but this does flow as if we produced this. I think it happens just organically for sure. This was one of many things that was riveting to me this week. And listen, I love what Tucker Carlson does. I've been a fan of his from the beginning of his time at Fox News, frankly. And when you sit down with Tucker Carlson, I did, and it is about things that were of no importance, especially compared to what he's discussing now with people like Senator Ted Cruz. And the back and forth that went viral between he and Ted Cruz, to me, like I was floored by it for many reasons. Take a look and let's talk about it after.
How many people live in Iran, by the way?
I don't know the population.
At all?
No, I don't know the population.
You don't know the population of the country you seek to topple?
How many people live in Iran?
92 million.
Okay. Yeah,
How could you not know that?
I don't sit around memorizing population tables.
Well, it's kind of relevant because you're calling for the overthrow of the government.
Why is it relevant whether it's 90 million or 80 million or 100 million? Why is that relevant?
Because if you don't know anything about the country...
I didn't say I don't know anything about
Okay, what's the ethnic mix of Iran?
They are Persians and predominantly Shia. Okay, this is cute.
It's not
okay.
even... You don't know anything about Iran. So
okay,
actually,
I am not the Tucker Carlson expert on Iran.
You're a senator who's calling for the overthrow of the government.
You're the one who
don't know anything about the country.
No, you don't know anything about the country. You're the one who claims they're not trying to murder Donald Trump.
Okay, me and one of my best friends back in the day always used to talk about ass sweating moments. Have I mentioned that phrasing on the show before? That to me was an ass sweating moment. And I'm sitting there going, oh my gosh, Tucker is actually doing his job and maybe pushing more than he needed to, but I do think it's fair. And I wanted to know your opinion. Is it fair? Should we expect Ted Cruz, for the reasons that Tucker Carlson mentioned, to know some of those details, which are not real deep, just basic information about a country like Iran? I think he should know those things. Am I crazy? What do you think, Russell?
I think, I agree with you that his line of questioning is likely organized to expose that Ted Cruz is willing to participate in and endorse radical action without a rudimentary understanding of, in that case, demographics. But that indicates potentially that Ted Cruz, I suppose the implication is a kind of autopilot politician rendering and delivering policy without understanding its consequences. And we know what Tucker Carlson's position is. He is anti-war. He don't think American money, far less American lives, should be spent on these endeavors unless there is sufficient motivation for it. And I suppose that would mean America is particularly under threat. Now, I know Tucker Carlson knows a lot more about this stuff than I do. And I try not to be kind of intellectually or politically lazy, but this is one of the instances where I think, well, I reckon Tucker's done the research. I trust Tucker's integrity. I trust him in particular and personally on this matter. And what I feel like, just as a media spectacle, we all enjoy, don't we? Those Gore Vidal, William Buckley moments where people are in kind of conflict and in combat, even though on some level as well, say like you, I do feel slightly like, oh no, I want people to get on. But what I feel that really what's underneath this, quite quickly when taking the temperature of that interview, I get to the point where a lot of us have projected a lot onto Donald Trump. He's just a human being. He's not going to be able to deliver on all that. He's in a really unbelievably complex situation that I can't even begin to imagine. And before long, Sage and Dave, I reached the point where it seems to me that what's really being exposed are the problems with the system itself. That really there's a sufficient number of people that don't want war anymore, don't want forever wars, and are not interested in hearing the litany of justifications. So either we're going to need more transparent government, more reliable media, ending clandestine documentation about what the true reasons for this war are. And a journalist like Tucker Carlson is brilliantly adept. I guess I would say credit to Ted Cruz for going on there, because he must have known he was going to get a rough ride. And on the basis of that clip, which is all I've seen, he did.
Right. So actually, I'm on board a lot of what Russell said. Although I'm a little at this point, I'm a little, let's say, more skeptical than maybe you guys are on some of Tucker's intentions, because Tucker for the last year and a half, and Tucker blurbed my book. He walked into my studio years ago and credited me for his reasoning to go independent. I've considered us, we I don't know if we'll text anymore, but we still text or we've been texting as of even a couple of weeks ago. So I'm not saying this to be flippant or gossipy or something. But I think if you were to look at the work that he's done on his show for the year and a half since he's gone independent and watch how he's done interviews versus how he did that interview, it's very different. Now, he's entitled to do his interviews however he wants, the same way the three of us are. And anyone can judge us on that. I used to get called a softball interviewer all the time. I grew up watching Larry King, who I loved, and then he became a friend and mentor of mine. And that's what his critics used to say. Mm-hmm. Okay, that's fine. And then there's people like Piers Morgan, who maybe are more combative. That's up to a style. What I thought was interesting about this was that he never does that with anyone else that I've seen on his show, whether it's Glenn Greenwald or some of these historians he's put on, or the guy who claimed he smoked meth and blew Obama or whatever. But he did do it with Ted. Now, that being said, Ted Cruz probably, if you're going to go to a gunfight or a knife fight, which is what he should have known this was going to be, you got to be prepared. So did Tucker know 91 million people probably before the interview? I really doubt it. However, he knew he could get Ted on something, and Ted probably should have done a little bit better cursory information on that stuff. And it's funny that that's the clip that went viral. There are a lot of other clips where it seemed to me that Ted was really getting him, because in one instance, Ted talks about how Iran has had, the DOJ says it, so I can't verify this, but this is what the DOJ says, that Iran has been trying to assassinate Trump for years. Tucker says, okay, well, if that's the case, we should nuke Tehran. And that's only 2 or 3 minutes after he said, I'm not for killing anybody.
Exactly.
So again, look, we all have inconsistencies and all of those things. But I think this is also, and maybe this was Russell's real point, is as we're watching the media shift, right? So as we kind of become the media, I think, and maybe Tucker disagrees with this, I think Rogan definitely disagrees with it, I think we have more of a responsibility than to just talk about things that either we don't know that much about or whatever. We can all talk, we can all do all those things. It's a responsibility for me to do this the most truthful that I can. Maybe that's not how everyone feels about all of these things. But again, I can't speak to Tucker's motives. I can only speak to 1 minute he said you don't kill anybody, and a minute later he said, if what you just told me is true, nuke Tehran. Donald Trump is not for nuking Tehran, and neither am I.
But I suppose that I recognize the point that was being made there, Dave, and is that if there is a genuine threat that they are going to kill Trump, let's not mess around with mediated, managed war. Let's do true war without limitation.
But if that's...
Don't you imagine that Tucker's point really is that this is somewhat economically motivated and motivated by relationships that are non-domestic, is probably Tucker Carlson's point. And also, don't you think also, Dave, that when, say, if me and you are doing an interview, or me and Sage or whatever, I'd say it's a good faith conversation between people that are actual friends. But if I had Hillary Clinton on, right, I'm going to prepare for that different, because I'm going to want to know why she's saying this about Trump taking money from Kuwait when her foundation took money from Qatar. I would prepare for it properly. And my point would be that the whole of woke liberal democratic politics is about masking your true intentions. And I think that probably what Tucker Carlson felt and demonstrated was that you are a person in a genuine position of power whose authority is particularly relevant in this instance. What is that authority founded upon? And I even think the nuclear bomb point, Dave, is if they really are a threat, if it wasn't Democrats or deep state with those 2 assassination attempts on Trump, if it is Iran, then Iran really are an enemy. And if they really are an enemy, let's go. So
Well, you actually just said it, I think, better than he did. But what I would also say is then if the idea, look, it was his words, not mine. What he said is, if it's true, now our DOJ says it's true, and Ted Cruz said it's true too. But what he said was, if it's true, we should nuke Tehran. I mean, when Israel got into this war where they lost thousands of their citizens and still have a lot of them kidnapped, one of the things they did was not blow apart all of Lebanon. They did fight with Lebanon as Lebanon was shooting rockets at them, but they did a very clandestine operation with the beepers to attack the specific people who were the agents of Hezbollah. So I can tell you this, if if just because they were threatening to kill Trump, I'm not for nuking Tehran. What a crazy thing to say. 10 million people live in Tehran.
But that's rhetoric, Dave. Like Tucker Carlson, as of now, is not a
I can get on
politician with
board
political power. That's like it's a rhetorical flourish to challenge a person who is in political office. What I think about health is irrelevant compared to what Bobby Kennedy thinks about health, because Bobby Kennedy can make decisions to curtail, control big pharma, big food, influence agriculture. I can chat all day. It doesn't mean anything,
I'm not so sure. Sorry, Sage. I'm not so sure if I buy that, though, because if you're a thought leader in this, if you have access to the White House and everything else, if in one sentence you're saying, I wouldn't kill anybody, I wouldn't, because I'm a peacemaker, they're warmongers. And then a minute later, someone says to you, well, they've been trying to kill the president of the United States. Okay, we should drop a nuke on them. Whether he means it literally or not, the messaging, I think, is just very confused, right? And again, I don't think any of us, if right now we all knew for 100% fact that the mullahs were trying to kill Trump, do you want to nuke Tehran? I don't.
I feel like our technology is better, so that would not be the tack that we would have to take to at the very least, address it. I do think that Tucker Carlson came in. No, you're right, Russell, I agree. He probably did not offhand know the population of Iran. But as a journalist, as an interviewer, when you're going into a conversation like that, you do research. And that's probably what came up to him. One of the first things, if you Google Iran, right? And so whether it is essential for Ted Cruz to know those specifics or not, the point is Ted Cruz should have been fully prepared with those basic facts, because if nothing else, PR-wise, like what happened right there is a bad look, especially for those people who aren't sure about this and the motivation behind it. So whether it's important or not, it does go viral on social media and ends up being kind of I think, I don't know if you agree, a bad look overall for Ted Cruz and the people who are on the other side opposite of Tucker.
Look, at the end of the day, the three of us know this probably more than most. If you talk for a living, it's very rare that they're going to be like, boy, that was an incredible 3-hour thoughtful interview and I learned a lot and there was a hell of a lot of nuance, versus, oh, there was 6 seconds where they suddenly forgot a stat and watch them get destroyed.
Yeah, that's the problem. And there's a lot of people who can't stand Ted Cruz, and this just adds more fuel to that fire, right? On that note, sticking with this wonderfully positive, fun Iran theme, I feel like every other...
Can't we talk about basketball?
Almost. Don't you want to see the Whoopi Goldberg idiocy, which, again, happens so often? Just roll the tape from The View this week. It's fascinating. Go.
And it's slow. But let's just remember, too, the Iranians literally throw gay people off of buildings. They don't adhere to basic human rights.
Listen, here's the thing. Let's not do that, because if we start with that, we have been known in this country to tie gay folks to the car.
Where the Iranian regime is today in 2025 is nothing compared to the United States.
Keep hanging black people.
I think it's very different to live in the United States in 2025 than it is to live in Iran.
Not if you're black.
Not for everybody.
I literally had to watch it 3 times to make sure that the glass of wine I had the night before wasn't sick. And that I was, hearing things incorrectly. Like, she has said some boneheaded things throughout, let's just say the last year during the election, the campaign, etc. This one is at least top 3 for me. I'm going to give credit to Alyssa Farah Griffin, who sometimes I don't love her, that's for sure. But at least she stuck with it and pushed back, because it is a fact. There is no comparison to being a human being in Iran today, but especially a woman, to being a black person in America today in 2025. Whoopi went way back to the 1960s. Fine. There were issues. Hi, do you see the color of my skin? You met my parents. You guys know. Black father, my grandfather was...
That's a hell of a filter you have on there today, Sage. I thought you were white.
It's really... Well, depending on who you ask. Yeah, never mind. Honestly, it is... we have a history. We know that, and that's okay. Don't go back there to compare to today, how we live today. People with my skin color have every freaking opportunity that people with your skin color have. But to compare that to what is going on in Iran is disgusting and irresponsible. The only thing I struggle with is, by talking about it, are we continuing to help this program? Because they say so many things that I think are damaging that maybe I should ignore them more. Go.
Well, I'm curious what Russell thinks about that because I bring that up on my show all the time. I was playing basketball last night, and this guy who I love came up to me and he's like, Dave, I watch the show every day, but why do you keep bludgeoning us with The View? And I'm not exactly sure why, other than the reasons you just explained. I'll just say one other thing on this, which is that she also claimed that they tie gay people up with cars. And yes, I knew one guy, and you had to pay him in Chelsea years ago.
Yes.
You got that one, Russell? You got that one? That was for you.
Very nice. It was a lovely little joke. Lovely little S&M, edgy little Marquis de Sade joke. It was nice.
Take it away.
I feel that I remember going on The View. I remember watching Ghost and a variety of other Whoopi Goldberg movies. And I remember her as a stand-up comic as well. Now, do you not sometimes, when you're making hours of content over the course of a week, responding to clips, responding to content, producers handing you notes, it's not like that for us a lot in independent media. But, I did my fair share, as all of us have done, in mainstream media, shall we say. And I feel like you've got to run your mouth as part of your job. If you think about it, what is Whoopi Goldberg saying there? I think she's saying those in glass houses shouldn't throw stones. She's making that point. Some people argue about moral relativism and cultural relativism, that America has a history, Britain has a history. What is our mandate for telling other people to change the way that they run their lives and run their nation? So her basic and broader point, I can agree with. I agree with her basic point, because I think it's the same as how has regime change gone in Iraq? How has America's experiences in Vietnam, Afghanistan affected the American people, American economy? How do we marry that together with an insight from a person whose integrity cost them a great deal, like Julian Assange, specifically Julian Assange, who said the function of the Afghanistan war is not to win it, but to maintain it and sustain it. The function of government is to transfer public money into private hands.
Because the goal is not to completely subjugate Afghanistan. The goal is to use Afghanistan to wash money out of the tax bases of the United States, out of the tax bases of European countries, through Afghanistan and back into the hands of a transnational security elite. That is the goal, i.e. the goal is to have an endless war, not a successful war.
And I feel that what The View probably does, and what we all contribute to if we're not careful, is sustains a level of conversation that thrives on polarization. And in the end, you'll just get people watching The View that want to hear what people say on The View. You'll get people watching Dave who love Dave, people watching Sage who love Sage. And I feel that we might be at a moment, because of these sort of fractures that are occurring literally in this moment as a result of these geopolitical matters and the changes around migration law, or at least this sort of gentle equivocation around agriculture requiring illegal immigrants or whatever. I think we might be in a moment where there are new alliances coming, even in the culture, new alliances and new conversations. I wonder what you both think about that, because it doesn't seem to me enough to be able to sort of criticize Whoopi Goldberg or even Mark Ruffalo, who I'll be talking about in a minute, without thinking, well, what do I agree with here? And what's their point? What do they think about us, man?
Well, dare I say, I mean, I think that's why we're doing this show, and it's why we're all enjoying doing it, right? Like, I think that's what we're trying to slog through, for whatever our differences might be, and show that you can actually be friends with people and all of that stuff. So I think that's one part. The only part that I guess I would slightly push back on is, Whoopi, you can make anti-war points or whatever point she was trying to make, you can make those points. But the knee-jerk response of what has become like the factory setting lefty to just be like, but America is bad. And Sage pointed out, okay, no one's denying that slavery existed. There were Jim Crow laws. There were bad things that happened to Black people. There were bad things that happened to gay people and women and blah, blah. But the knee-jerk response to like go over the top to make everything bad on us is just like, it's just like an unfruitful device or something. So could we all probably be better a little bit in these conversations? Yeah. But it just seems strange to me. I'm more interested, you'll like this version of it, Russell. I'm more interested at this point that at the network executives at ABC who hired these people to say these crazy things than the people themselves. Sonny's just giving them whatever they want her to do at this point. Whoopi, we all loved Whoopi. There was not one person in 1986 America to 1999 America that did not love Whoopi Goldberg, right? Did not. Everyone freaking loved her. Sister Act 2 is pretty good. but they've for whatever reason in that structure have become sort of the worst versions of what we expect. And I think that's the thing you're kind of hitting on there.
Yeah, like the culture's doing it to us. Excuse me, Sage. I was just saying that we're all sort of getting pushed further and further down funnels of disagreement. Like we're starting to recognize what our roles are and start to sort of parrot and echo these points, Sage, was what I was going to say.
No, you're so right. I think that that's the problem of the people that complain about how terrible America is and, you know, all the hatred that's out there. They're the ones that actually are pushing the hatred the most and the divisiveness. And that example in particular to me is not Whoopi Goldberg trying to make an overarching point. She dialed in on this for a good couple of minutes, and Alyssa said, you know, hey, this is what they're doing, and they're pushing people off of rooftops if you're gay in Iran. And what was the quote? Alyssa said, I think it's very different to live in the U.S. in 2025 than it is to live in Iran. And Whoopi 3-4 times pushed back and said, not if you're Black. So that was the specific part. And that I call BS on. And it's very interesting to be coming from a 69-year-old Black woman who's a multi-millionaire in this terrible country. And I'm sure she has had moments and examples, as we all have, as you have, Dave Rubin, as a Jewish gay man. Like there's something out there where everyone has the potential to be offended for sure. But that is not not just an unfair comparison. It's factually wrong. And I just then don't want to hear you come back and talk about divisiveness in other ways when you are part of it.
Because, Sage, it also leads you to misery. It leads you to misery. Do we all have shit in our lives? Like, of course we all have shit. Is there something that happened to us, or a relationship that we had, or some of us were born poor, or someone was abused? Like, we can all do that all day long. And do you like hanging out with those people? No, I love people that are in the game, that are like fighting for what they want and going and getting something, like a Jordan Peterson, like see the star and aim at it and go do something. But their version of it is so depressing, which is why they are so deeply depressed. And that's the dangerous thing, because when Whoopi says that, and then some 15-year-old Black kid hears that, and then is like, oh my God, the world is so set up against me. And then you wonder why young people are so anxiety ridden and fearful, and they don't want to take chances and all of those things. So yeah, we could all be better in this, I suppose. I happen to think the three of us are trying the best we can, and maybe we'll help birth the thing that'll solve some of this.
Do we have time, or is it Russell's turn for the Caitlan Clark?
Can we do the Caitlan? We have to do it. We have to do it. Please,
Russell,
please,
Brand,
please.
Do you know who Caitlan Clark is?
Caitlan Clark is the best female basketballer that there is or ever will be, but still not good enough to play basketballing at a man.
Until I
get
put
my
on a dress.
information from Dave.
I'm so proud of you. Basketballing.
Yeah.
Yes, I'm going basketballing. I love you. Have you seen this video then? That is the question, because listen, the WNBA has a lot of issues and ratings have been a problem until when Caitlan Clark entered the league last year. And then, by the way, every time she gets injured, the ratings like drop by at least 50%. But this video from what happened, I think on Tuesday night this week, Monday or Tuesday night, it's still being talked about because of the ridiculousness and the calls that went forward against Caitlan Clark. Take a look.
I mean, is that displacement? I think it is.
Oh, and Marina Mabry's going to get ejected. If the officials saw that, Marina Mabry is going to get ejected.
Well, they're going to go and look at it. Look at Mabry. She's got a scar on one side, a scratch on one side of her face, a scratch on the other side. It's not from the game today. I asked her about it. She's always in the mix. There's a lot of contact here. There's a scrape across the face. That's what Clark didn't like. And then Mabry came in with a bump.
And Mabry's day is almost assuredly going to be done. But both teams.
Oh my goodness. She gets poked in the eye, pulls away because obviously that's painful and maybe a little dangerous as well. And then as she's walking away, another player comes and bumps her. It's definitely a flagrant foul. And who gets called for the foul? Caitlan Clark. The context on this is that there has been so much jealousy and hatred put towards Caitlan Clark from pretty much every other team in the WNBA. There is envy there. People can deny it all they want, but that's exactly what it is. And there's been a lot of racism as well, because what do you mean? A white girl coming into this black girl sport and taking over and getting the endorsements and the attention? It has been really ugly and so disappointing once again when all of these people are the ones who preach DEI and diversity and tolerance and equity and inclusion. That was so ugly. And for a league, Dave Rubin, that is trying so hard to build its fan base and to build the core and to build the ratings and to not have to rely on the NBA to pay its bills, the officiating has been terrible, and moments like that just take away from the game. What do you think?
Well, first off, it's so beyond the officiating. There is a cultural rot that has taken root in that league that is so unbelievably out of control. And it's so representative of all of the stuff that we're always talking about, how wokeness ruins things and everything else. I mean, it's really crazy. I think I mentioned this to you once on the show, or maybe it was one of our other shows, Sage. But I remember when the WNBA came out around 95, there was a woman by the name of Cynthia Cooper. She was older at that time. She had played in Europe, but she was on the Houston Comets with Cheryl Swoops and a couple of those other girls, and she was awesome.
Yes.
She would have the sickest up and under spin moves, Euro step, and I loved watching it. I have not watched the WA in the last 20 plus years, except since Caitlan Clark has come in. I see these highlights. A couple things real quick. The two girls that did that, especially the one who hit her at the end, you kick them out of the league right now. You know, in NBA basketball, when Michael Jordan was coming around and when he was really becoming a star, late 80s, early 90s, they would kick the crap at him, but they kicked the crap out of everybody. Right? Like the Pistons had the Jordan rules to kick the crap out of Jordan. But if you watch the Pistons play the Knicks, they kick the crap out of them. The Knicks kick the crap out of the Bulls. The Bulls kick the crap. So it went every which direction. The idea that somebody is going to break her eye socket, or she's going to end up blowing out a tendon or whatever it might be, and it will be because of one of these people, and they're doing it out of jealousy. To me, you kick them out of the league.
Not just a suspension with a fine. You want them out?
No. Not anymore. There's been enough of this already. I mean, there's a million other videos of literal inbound passes where she just gets crushed. I played basketball for 3 hours last night. I've never seen anyone do that. If I was playing pickup and on an inbound pass where someone didn't get the ball, someone just leveled them, that person would never be invited to play again. She's so important to this. And if you care about women, you kick them out of the league and you say, sorry, that's it. It's not because you want her to be treated better than everybody, but she shouldn't be treated worse than everybody. You're treating the transcendent player who's transforming your sport. You're turning them into basically an abuse case because you people apparently love abuse. Russell, what do you think about these basketballers?
These basketballers, it seems that a fundamental problem has been revealed, that when someone emerges in their sport that can generate excellence, the sport itself can't accommodate it, possibly because there's a kind of baked-in mediocrity and messaging around equality that means that when they encounter excellence, they can't accommodate it. Sport is by definition about excellence. How can natural ability and endeavor take you to a level where in moments we glimpse divinity? Far better yet, that when that can be achieved and performed in front of an audience regularly and reliably. Geniuses are always persecuted and punished in sport and in life. Diego Maradona, one of the greatest footballers, he lived in sort of personal anguish, struggled with addiction, and was punished and persecuted on the pitch. And your point about Michael Jordan is an interesting one. Whether he was penalized by opponents more excessively than other athletes, by your reckoning, ain't the case. But certainly Michael Jordan carried something that no one else in the history of that sport had to carry. And I would say that for Caitlan Clark, these trials will be the furnace that generates the elevation of the sport that the sport ironically craves but can't accommodate because it's probably lost itself in its own messaging about equality and inclusivity. So when someone truly excellent emerges, it's sort of outside of its own purview. But she will prevail.
Sage, I got a crazy question for you. I was thinking this when I watched that clip. I was like, you know what? If they don't change and change fast for the reasons that I just laid out there, like they could break a bone in her face, just, one wrong elbow, you could be done. Remember what happened to Rudy Tomjanovich around 1977? Like that can happen to you. What if this happens one more time, Caitlan Clark just says, you know what? I'm retiring from the WNBA and I'm starting my own league and any player can join me. The amount of money that would be poured into that, the amount of fathers that would be so proud to say to their daughters, hey, I'm funding Caitlan Clark League. Yeah, you're not going to get the extra bonus money that you get from the NBA because the NBA takes their profits to put it to the WNBA, which loses money. But I think she could do it, and I think that would be way better and more in line with sportsmanship and pro-woman and everything else. And there's also a weird gender and skin color and sexuality, not
Absolutely.
gender, sexuality and skin color thing here that nobody really wants to talk about.
Yeah, yes, people here and there have brought that up, not just because she's white, but because she's a heterosexual and she is the minority. I think it's pretty close to being the minority in the WNBA for being a heterosexual, God forbid, right? I'll say two things before we move on because I heard the swoosh. Number one, this is like bad parenting, and this is enabling because when mom and dad allow the kids to act poorly and never hold them accountable for their actions, they're just going to keep doing it and keep doing it more and more and more. And that is exactly what has happened as every single team now, every opponent of the Indiana Fever, when they play them, they go after her because they know that there will be no repercussions. So I say shame on the league for allowing the officials to allow the games to get out of control, number one. And number two, if I am Stephanie White, who is an incredible young woman, the head coach of the Indiana Fever, I think she's in her mid-40s now. By the way, I covered her when she was named Indiana Miss Basketball as a junior in high school.
Oh, wow.
50 plus years ago. And she won a national championship at Purdue. She's an incredible player. She's a badass. I would not want to mess with Stephanie White. And if I'm Stephanie White, right now, what am I saying? You as the league, mom and dad, the president, everybody in charge, you're allowing this to happen. Now I'm going to make sure my girls protect Caitlan Clark, just like Dennis Rodman would have protected Michael Jordan and did, just like everybody up with the bad boy Detroit Pistons. You mess with our guy in the National Hockey League, you're going to pay for it. And now I think that's what we're going to see. And then they're going to lose full control. But that's all that they can do to protect this young woman who is a gift to everybody. These women should be grateful for Caitlan Clark because they're benefiting from the higher ratings that she alone brings to the sport. So thank you for making sure we got to this topic. And let's keep an eye on poor Caitlan Clark.
Let me just, Russell, I know you're not going to get this reference, but Sage, you will. Why don't they just put Rick Mahorn in a dress and get him over there on Indiana? And
yes, please. Everybody would love it because guess what? All he has to say is, I identify as a woman. I'm allowed here. That's all it takes.
Bitch, I'm the power forward. All right. Russell.
In a way, I suppose we're contemplating how this culture reassembles itself after an apocalyptic and certainly massively transitional moment. We're living in Trump's America. We're discussing what Trump's America is going to be. Is it the America that we campaign for, or is it something of a compromise? In California, there have been ongoing protests around the deportation of migrants, and it's as is often the case in that state, and particularly in the city of LA, it has harbingers, advocates, and celebrity advocate and activists run into the forefront. Now, this is interesting for all of us because we all sort of straddle to some degree the kind of line between public figures with opinions on news issues and celebrities. And let's have a look here at Mark Ruffalo, an actor that I admire, a person whose positions I sometimes respect, coming out and speaking on behalf of deported migrants, wearing a hat that wears immigrants on it, and making the claim that the real problem in America is not mass migration, but an elite billionaire class that are able to make political maneuvers that go beyond the remit of democracy. Let's have a look at Mark Ruffalo's speech that I think he made at an anti-deportation protest. Check it out.
It's not the immigrants, it's the billionaires. Well, we're seeing what's happening. First of all, we're understanding that the immigrants aren't the criminals. If you look at the statistics, most of the crimes that are committed in this country are by white people, that non-immigrants, and they add to our economy by the billions. And so for every horrible thing that you have to go through in life, you get an equal gift in return. And the gift of this time is that we get to see who the true villains are. We get to see who's really making our lives unbearable and who's making us so desperate. It's not the immigrants, it's the billionaires. And it's time to take our country back from that extreme wealth that has its hands all over the power of the nation and become a beautiful, burgeoning democracy that works for the people, not just the very wealthy.
Some people will point out the hypocrisy of Mark Ruffalo there, and other people might argue absolutely with his perspective. What's interesting to me is that I wonder if Mark Ruffalo was making those points about corruption and elite influence when the Democrats were in power, whether it was George Soros or Bill Gates and their various foundations and their ability to influence over American cultural and political life. Sage, what do you, I know you've got to go because Roseanne could at any moment lunge into the shot in her own home.
We'll do it quick. We'll do it quick.
What do you make of it? What do you make of it, Sage Steele?
I guess, Russell Brand, I just add Mark Ruffalo to the list of people that I have zero interest in contributing to him establishing even greater wealth at this point. I looked him up during that clip, and it says he's worth anywhere between $35 and $90 million.
Oh, that's exactly what I was about to do right here.
Yeah, so, okay, he's not a billionaire, but he's not hurting. And I just don't think that it's genuine what they're saying. I don't believe Mark Ruffalo, and add all the other list of celebrities, a very long list. I don't believe they're that stupid to know to think that this is just about people getting rich. This is about protecting our country and protecting America. Of course we welcome immigrants. How many times do we have to go through this? Every single one of us is here. I guess you're not fully one of us, Lord Pippin. However, we take you as one of us. I claim you as ours.
We think of you that way. Yeah.
We absolutely do. And at the end of the day, everybody comes from somewhere else, somewhere down in their lineage. And the key is to what? Is to do it legally. That's all it is. And because of what happened over the last several years, decades, including when Trump was in office the first time, but for so many years, it has been allowed to the point that it was too much. Donald Trump is one that has to go in there and do it. People, by the way, where was Mark Ruffalo? Russell Brand, where was Mark Ruffalo when Barack Obama was deporting millions of illegals? Where was he when Hillary Clinton was saying in 2008, you can come here, but you have to do it legally or we're going to hold you accountable? He was silent then. Their hypocrisy, we've talked about hypocrisy a lot on this show. It is thick. And I believe that there is obviously benefit for them just to be part of the cool kids club. I don't know what it is, but I don't think they're that dumb. And I'll end with this. This is one of those topics, border, immigration, not quite, I think, as dominant as where you've got 80% of people saying that men don't belong in women's sports, but it's definitely maybe number 2, 1/8 of that, where people overall agree it's too much. You've got to come here legally. And screw Mark Ruffalo and all of the Hollywood elite who stand there from their perches denouncing everybody else who just wants to protect what we have. I'm done. Add them to the list for me.
Since Sage gave such erudite, thoughtful commentary, let me dumb it down for a minute. He's starting to look like the between thing between Bruce Banner and the Hulk. What's going on with his face? Was it just the crooked hat? You know when he's morphing into the Hulk and his face starts, there's something weird going on with that. That's number one. Number two, you know who I really feel for here? It's Ed Norton. You know, Ed Norton was the original Hulk for the MCU universe, and he then decided not to do all the other movies. So Mark Ruffalo, Mr. I Hate Capitalism, he cashed into the tune of about 50 mil to do a bunch of crappy movies, even though Infinity War was pretty good. He took the 50 mil while Ed Norton's doing like little Sundance movies. So that's number two. Number three, everything you said there was absolutely right. And it's like, dude, you know what? I'm going to guess, Mark Ruffalo, somewhere you live, probably somewhere in Bel Air in a $20 million house. And I'm going to guess that all of your landscapers are illegal. And you know what? You could pay them a little bit more if you really cared about them, right? You don't have to kick them out of the country yourself, but you could pay them a little more. But I'm pretty sure you hire them because they're illegal, because they work cheap. And it's just the endless hypocrisy with all of these people. You know, he's one of these guys where he's become, you know, they end up ruining the art. And this is one of the things that actors, by becoming so public about all of their thoughts, they end up ruining the art. Like, I'm not even saying this about Tom Hanks specifically because I don't know a ton of his political views. But like Tom Hanks became so famous in some sense that all of the movies, it's like, oh, that's Tom Hanks on the island. Oh, that's Tom Hanks on the boat. You can't separate the person. And I love now when I watch random movies and I know none of the cast, because it's like, oh, then it seems like it's them. These people have become too famous in some sense. They command too much attention and everything else. And I do not buy what he is selling. I don't think Russell could take it anymore. Did we lose Russell because of that? Or is he on the phone with Mark
Where did he
Ruffalo?
go? And real quick, Dave, to your point, in case Russell can jump back on here, I actually think that if some of these people, these Hollywood liberal elites, would think about it, they could probably make more headlines and get more people behind them.
Right.
If they said, you know what? We love all of the culture and the diversity in this country that has happened through our immigrants for hundreds of years. We just need you to do it legally. You know who did that this week beautifully? Was Arnold Schwarzenegger on The View.
That this is the greatest country in the world, and it is the land of opportunity. But the key thing also is at the same time that we got to do things legal. That is the important thing, you know. So you got to do things legal, and those people that are doing illegal things in America and that are foreigners, they are not smart. Because when you come to America, you're a guest, and you have to behave like a guest. Like when I go to someone's house and I'm a guest, then I will do everything I can to keep things clean and to make my bed and to do everything that is the right thing to do, rather than committing a crime or being abusive or something like that. You have a responsibility as an immigrant to give back to America and to pay back to America and to go and do something for your community for no money whatsoever. Give something back to after-school programs, Special Olympics, or whatever it is.
Now, is he at a different phase of life than Mark Ruffalo? Yes, of course. But I think that there's a kind and gentle way where you can say, listen, we understand why you came here. We want you. We just need you to do it legally, just like the millions of people who are currently in this country doing it the right way, sending money back to their families in different parts of the world to try to go through the process to eventually bring them here legally. People who made very difficult life choices to do that, to do it legally. So there's a kind way to say it. And I think that they're actually missing out. And I'll liken it once again to the conversation on men and women's sports, because you can say this has nothing to do with us being anti-trans. This is about protecting women. And if more athletes would come out and say that, athletes that I know damn well actually believe that, they would get more people on their bandwagon. They'd actually have more fans because they would respect them for speaking the truth and not just going along with what they think everybody wants to hear. They're missing out on an opportunity, to be honest here.
Yeah, and by the way, eventually that opportunity will be so obvious that they will come around and pretend they had nothing to do with it.
And then I don't want them. And then I'm like, screw you, it's too late.
We got Russell back, but let's end with this because I have no doubt that Roseanne is one room away. She's already got the white wine. She's got the cigarette. She's freaking out. Why is Sage Steele using my studio? Let's end with this because we talked about Schwarzenegger for a moment. I announced my top 5 Schwarzenegger movies on the show this week because he did such a bang-up job on The View. I'm going to say it's this: Total Recall, Predator, T2, Terminator, and then I'm going to throw Twins in there. I could also say 6 Day, which most people don't remember, but I'm going to throw Twins in there because he offered up a little comedy. Do either one of you want to challenge me on any of those?
Russell, he actually hung up on himself again. I swear. Did you see him? And then it went dark. I can't.
We could have done this show with Tucker Carlson. We chose Russell Brand, you know?
There he is.
Oh, there he is.
I'm not a movie buff. I would need more time to do my research like a good journalist, for example, Googling what the population of Iran is. That's what a good journalist does before the interview. So thank you for giving me time to do that. I think all of his Terminator movies were incredible. I mean, that's Arnold. That's why we so fell in love with him, who, by the way, immigrated to this country legally.
No Conan, no True Lies, no Junior.
No, I would say Twins is better than Junior. True Lies, I know people liked it. And what's her name? Doesn't she have 2 sets of genitals? Jamie Lee Curtis, or did I just make that up?
Yes, you might.
I think I might have made that up. We should probably end the program.
No, I've done that. We're trying to end fake news, not add genitals to Jamie Lee.
Love you, Jamie Lee. Love Activia. That's your yogurt. Okay. Goodbye.